Meeting of the Conservation Commission in order for May 7th. I will entertain a motion to approve our minutes from April 16th.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. We have one new public hearing tonight, which I will read that into the record. Under the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 44, Section 10, the Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing May 7th, 2019, 6:30 p.m. in the McDonald Brown Conference Room, 65 North Main Street, to discuss and update the local filing fee schedule for the West Bridgewater Wetland Protection Rules and Regulations. And that is now open. And basically, for those of you in attendance and watching, what we're looking to do is add an additional $1 fee to the local delineation fee that we're allowed to charge. The money for this will be earmarked to go to special environmental stewardship projects. We've acquired some land. We have some trails that need updating, and we need funding to update and keep them cleared, keep bridges open, bog paths together. And that's what we're looking to start a fund where we'll actually have some money to do this. This fee is something we can also, if there's a hardship expressed to us and they ask for a waiver, we can waive that. So if there's a septic system repair that's an emergency kind of thing within a wetland area, they can ask if there's a hardship for that to be waived. So it's not set in stone. We do have a little discretion where it gets applied to.
And this, excuse me, would affect mostly the engineering community as they're preparing land for development. It delineates the wetland line. So indirectly it affects homeowners, but probably not in a super dramatic way.
Any commissioners have any questions? Anybody in the audience have any questions, comments? Yes.
Just a real quick one. It seems like the state fees are $1 per linear foot, and I think, and I could be wrong, John could correct me, they cut it off as at $1,000. Is that right, John?
Residential, I believe, is 1,000, and the commercial's 2,000.
Okay. So if it's $1 a foot, what you're proposing is to go up to $2 a foot.
Well, the local bylaw fee, not the state. The local one we currently have is $2. So we're looking to go from 2 to 3
Oh, okay.
for the local
Good
fee.
for you guys. Okay, you answered my question. Is there any length of line that you cut it off at?
No.
Okay.
But again, it's negotiable. We can, depending on the project, where it's going, what it's doing. So there's some discretion there.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the delineation fee increase.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And for those of you that are here, there was to be another public hearing for the 9/11 memorial. However, that did not get advertised properly and in time, so that will be on next meeting's agenda. So if you're here for that, you do not have to stay. Next, we have continued public hearings. We have 373 Crescent Street.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, my name is Michael Koska. I'm here representing 373 Crescent Street Limited Liability Corporation in their endeavor to bring the site up to speed and try to answer some of the comments that in the peer review that John Delano, your consultant, has brought forth. I made 4 copies of the plan, which has sheet 1 and sheet 2. There's nothing that went on with the existing conditions plan, but on this one, so that I could remember what was done, I numbered the comments. So so what I did was I made the commissioners a sheet that has the numbers on there, so that
You can leave them right here.
Huh?
You can leave them all right here.
Oh, okay. And that way there,
Unless they
hopefully,
look here.
you folks can follow along as well as I can hopefully get through this. As you know, the last time we were here, John had a few items. to go over. And I think that I've done that. We didn't have a chance to get together to go over it, make sure that I did the right things. But number 8, the 8th and 10th is a wetland scientist. The wetland scientist that I'm entertaining or retaining to do this work has a job up in New York, and he's gone for the last couple of weeks, so he's going to be coming home today, and I guess he said he might even be looking at the site tomorrow. So if you'd bear with me, I'll try to not lose my place, and I'll go over these things that we talked about that John mentioned the last time. First, the proposed stormwater swale along the disturbed portion of the site, the following items are to be addressed. Okay, first, the stormwater swale along the northwesterly side of the project will need to be moved outside of the 50-foot buffer of the wetland. So in blue, let's see, how do I explain this? In green is the 50-foot buffer, but eventually with this replication area being here, which I think is the place that it was supposed to go, then what happens is that the 50-foot buffer gets moved out from the replication area. So what I've done is number 1 is the swale has been moved to be outside of the 50-foot buffer once the proposed 3,500 square foot replication area is established. Okay. Second, in revising the particular stormwater swale located in the area, the most westerly part of the swale must be extended westerly to the tree line and then southerly to the existing berm. Okay, that's number 2, which from here it goes and goes all the way around and goes to the berm that's here. So in fact, the entire site basically has a berm around it now.
Okay.
Third, this particular stormwater swale must have sediment forebays at various specified intervals and also act as check dams. So we've put in stone check dams. What I've circled here around this bend. Here, there, here, and onwards all the way around. So in other words, we have stone check dams within the swale that will, any turbulent flow would become laminar, and also any suspended solids in the flow will be allowed then to drop to the bottom. Fourth, the stormwater swale must have a precast outlet structure embedded into both the wetland side of the swale, into both of the wetland side of the swale's embankment. We are proposing here an outlet control structure. I haven't sized up whether it be a V-notch weir or simply an orifice, but I would think that something of this nature with this swale would probably be on the order of 1 to 1.5 CFS. So, I didn't discuss that with John, but certainly we can incorporate some sort of control structure, be it a broad-crested V-notch weir or simply an orifice. Okay. Fifth, the moving of the stormwater swale out of the 50-foot buffer will require a portion of the material stockpile to be removed and relocated.
Oh, yeah.
See this back end here? That's going, they've been chipping away at it over here, so eventually, this whole pile's going to be gone. But, so it's understood that that big hill of material that was predominantly, to my understanding, left over from the previous occupants. It was, it'll find other homes than being there. Sixth, this particular stormwater swale must be extended easterly to the earthen berm easterly of the material stockpile. Okay, so that's number 6. So it was put right in front of the berm and along the front of the, there was an attempt here to do the berm in this area. That'll be, shaped, and it'll be loamed and seeded to be properly stabilized. And right in front of that berm, the swale will be extended. 7th, the proposed wetland restoration needs to be linear along the existing wetland located east of the disturbed wetland. Now, I take that to mean, here's 7 here, right in this area, and I'm kind of just going parallel to the wetland line. But again, we can discuss that and, perhaps, make it less in some area and maybe more in another, or extend it, or whatever the case may be. That's not cast in stone. And then with the 8th one, the wetland restoration area needs to be planned by a wetland scientist, and a plan prepared by the wetland scientist needs to be submitted to the commission of its approval. So that being said, naturally we have to have a shape with that. Like I say, Thompson's coming back, from New York Lake tonight, so he can travel with this no traffic, and perhaps him and I and John can get together and maybe see out there what makes the most sense environmentally to replicate that 3,500. 9th, the stormwater swale to be moved outside the 50-foot no-touch buffer needs to be 50 feet from the restored wetland area, so that the 50-foot buffer is maintained along it. So again, once this is established, what I believe that John is saying, we need to have this swale at least 50 feet. The closest pot that I have is 51, and it's highlighted right above the number 9 there. 10th, the disturbed 50-foot buffer needs to be restored and planned by the wetland scientist and submitted to the commission for its approval. Again, 8 and 10 of the Thompson. 11th, the existing earthen berm along the wetland need to be inspected and stabilized with vegetated cover where necessary. There again, it says existing berm to be inspected by the design engineer and stable with loam and seed to prevent erosion. Be glad to work with the commission, with John or with the commission directly. It really doesn't matter. We're here all for the same reason. So that note was put here and also here, so that it's not just this one. It's the ones that are already established there. 12. The erosion control barriers for this particular stormwater swale needs to be extended accordingly. Okay, so now, being number 12, I have the silt fence starting here, and it's going all the way along here, all the way around here, stopping on the the back edge of this berm here, and then it picks up again over here. At the end of this 118 feet, because we have that berm that's between us, the construction, and the wetland, and it's going all the way down to Crescent Street, and I think that'll kind of touch on another one here. So that was what, number 12. 13th, the changes to the stormwater swale in the historically disturbed portion of site will be revised in a similar way and noted in the 3rd and 4th comments above. So again, this swale has the check dams. The silt fence has been moved all the way down, and is what I thought it was for the 13th comment. 14th, this particular stormwater swale needs to be extended northerly and westerly along the base of the earthen berm until it meets the other stormwater swale. So again, we put some dimensions on the length of the swale, but it extends all the way up to where we're proposing the gate and fence area. Okay, 15. The same swale needs to extend southerly to meet with what appears to be a pavement berm to be used at the entrance area. That's right here where the proposed gate is. And what we have is a Cape Cod berm on the inside and outside, or the easterly and the westerly side of, call it the main entrance, being proposed at 30 feet wide. Okay, 16th, the entrance road needs bituminous berms to direct the water towards the stormwater swales. Again, we're planning to put Cape Cod berms there, and that's number 16. That's pointing to the entrance area. Lastly, the erosion control barriers for this particular swale needs to be extended southerly to Crescent Street. So we brought it down and turned it a bit. And there again, it can be extended further if necessary, but that's the way we interpreted these comments that John made, and we're here to see if we've addressed them, except for the 8th and the 10th comments. Commission has any questions of me, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
John, I know we just got these plans, so you probably you haven't gotten a copy to have a lot of time to look at them.
So I'd just like to emphasize that the policy of the commission is to get the revised plans in the Monday, 1 week before the meeting, so that I have a chance to review it and give them recommendations. So I'll have to review everything that you put there. Received a number of calls from neighbors who said they weren't notified of the hearing. It seems as if the requirement is 300 feet from the property. And so I think some of the neighbors that are calling either are outside that 300 or they didn't get notified properly. So do you have any light that you can shed on that?
Well, I have both in the office and in the file here. As I keep going to the
certified list?
To the post office, I keep getting all of these certifieds that go out at $6.85, and a lot of them come back. Now I have in front of me that a butters list, 300 feet from the assessor's office, certified that these are in fact the abutters, and I think that I put in each notice of intent a list of the abutters. I would, if you don't have it in there, I'll be glad to give you that, and then I believe that either I have the white slips or Kitty might have the white slips that kind of correlate to all of the abutters that were sent certified mail. The planning board is also 300 feet. And if it was a subdivision for the planning board, it would be 500 feet. So I believe that, one, I sent out all of the abutters here, and I, will, the white cards should be somewhere there, Kitty. And I just followed the certified abutters list submitted to me as requested from the assessor's office.
So the question that might shed some light on it is, was the particular 300 feet from just the two parcels that you show on your plan, or from all of the land owned by the applicant?
It seems like on the top here, it has map 37, lot 2. So that is the one on the assessors list that were, that.
So your
this-
client owns more land than just that lot?
Yes.
So that's probably the answer. And
Right, could be.
I don't know whether the commission has to revise their policy on this or work with the assessor's office, but it strikes me that all the abutters to the land owned by the applicant should be notified. And apparently, they were only asked to notify for that one parcel.
Where is that parcel? Is it close to this one, or?
It's that piece that we're looking at on the plan.
It would be out this way here towards West Street. As you can see, there's abutters that are down. all the
Yeah,
way
so
around
it
here
might put them out
and
of the
around
300 feet,
here.
yeah.
Right.
I'm 100 feet.
And,
I have another question, too. If you send it certified and it comes back,
mhm.
just as a general question, what happens then?
They
I
made
can
the
give you the
attempt, so-
envelope.
Yeah, it was mailed.
Undeliverable, that's all it...
It's either undeliverable, either the people are not at home, or the people are just not interested.
But you sent it. That's okay.
I send it because that's what I'm
That's what
required
counts,
to
though.
do.
Right.
You
And
know,
that's all we can expect.
Okay.
right.
basically.
And if somebody has multiple pieces of land and they're the same abutter, well, I don't send it 5 times.
Yeah.
You know, I send it
$6.
I send it once because, I feel that I've met the intent to, not notify them 5 times because they have 5 pieces of land, but once because they're one person.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yes.
You take West
Yep.
Street?
Yep.
I'm Paul Mazzoli, 107 West Street, and my next-door neighbor, Laura Peters, was notified. And I wasn't, and evidently I'm not a direct abutter, but from where I sit, I can see right through to all the equipment, and I'm affected by it by noise, sight, and water. That's every time somebody buys this piece of property since '75 that I've been at 107 West Street, and they do something, I pump more water. And then, now I'm going through it again this past winter with trees coming down and filling going on. I'm still pumping now. So I just would like to know if I can be put on the list. If it's 300 feet, and I'm telling you, I'm right next to Laura, so if I'm 301 foot, is there a possibility?
No, we are 301.
Well, I don't think we are that far away. But I'm just saying, if you could take my name down, because we're quite interested in what's going on over here.
Absolutely. I see here on the abutters list that 93 West Street is the biggest, or the highest address, let's call it, and it is Laura Peters. And then I see 89, 83, 70, 80, and it gets into 77, 75, 71, 43, 45. Then it gets into a few people on Copper Beach Circle, and then the rest of them have Crescent Street addresses. I will make a trip over to the assessor's office, and I'm glad you're here, though. That's important.
From 11 to Wood neighbors, so you can come down to my backyard and look through.
Right. Okay.
So again, I think it may be that they were asked for that one particular parcel, and either the application needs to be changed to incorporate all of the parcels owned by the applicant, or maybe their way of calculating the distance has to be checked out. But I think it behooves us to try to straighten it out, because this hasn't been the first time that I've heard about this, so I think we need to look into it.
Yeah, there is a new assessor in there with Donna Carter left, so maybe Donna would have, caught it.
And really, there were 2 parcels that were...
Right, but the new person did not, and I didn't, to be honest with you. So, you can blame me.
Oh, when you get a big list with all those names, I'm sure you
It's
assume
not
that they've
fun.
caught everybody. and
It's no fun doing certified cards, but that's part of the job.
Yeah. I will tell you, going forward,
Mhm.
I I know we're going to have to continue this.
Mhm.
Will you and John be able to have something for next meeting, or do we need to go further than that?
No, I think Thompson,
Will we,
he is going to look at it, tomorrow in his travels, and then have questions for me. And if he has too many questions, then my suggestion to him is going to be to meet at the site. If I've done 1 through 17 minus 8 and 10, I don't think he's going to drag his heels.
okay,
I will
So-
let him.
So the next meeting is the 21st.
Right.
And the deadline to get these things in is the 13th, which is less than a week from now.
Okay.
So we may want to push it beyond that, or you go into overdrive and get it done.
He's going to have to go into overdrive to get it done. And, if you'd be so kind, John, to look at, the 15 that I've done, and, if you have some time, that there are questions on any of those, then I certainly can meet with you between now and the 13th. And I
The
don't
only day I
think...
work is Thursday.
Huh?
This Thursday is the only day I work this week.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so that gives us the 9th,
Which is,
Thursday.
yeah.
I'm not here tomorrow.
Okay, so you want to meet up Thursday?
I'll have to look at my calendar to make sure that I don't have appointments, but
Okay.
it's going to be pretty touch and go. So that's why we ought to start questioning when we ask an applicant or their representative if they can make it for the next meeting. We should point out how few days there really are in between. So it might always be 2 weeks, 2 meetings down the road instead of the normal one, unless it's minor changes.
So what I-
They want the 21st, so we can go to the 21st.
Right, and I'll make the effort to make sure that this punch list is satisfied by the 13th.
And while you're there, I'll try to get to my
so for everybody that's here, potentially we're looking at the 21st, continuing this hearing till, so what I would suggest is call in that day just to make sure they're still on the agenda and that he's able to meet the punch list. Either that or show up and you might only be here for 5 minutes and find out that it's continued 2 weeks out from there. But potentially the 21st is when we'll have it.
Right. I don't want to waste everybody's
No.
time by coming here and your time.
Right.
And that being said, I will make every effort to, I'll call up Thompson on the way home and tell him, look, can you have it done by the 13th or before? And if not,
So I do have time on the 9th,
okay. What time's good for you, John, to get together?
10.
10 o'clock, okay. All right, 10
Any other questions,
10
Sean?
o'clock on
Any other?
Thursday.
Yes.
Now, you were saying that there's other land owned by this owner. Do we have to wait until we hear something falling? Or would somebody be notified if they plan on doing more work on the land that's...
Right, that would be a separate application. So that means that they'd have to go through the whole advertisement, notification of a buzz again.
Okay. And not knock down trees prior to, and then come in after the fact?
I think that we've got a little bit of a restraining jacket on them now.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons this is all happening is because the trees were taken down and we're trying to get an official plan and file on.
This is the questions I ask because I'd like to know prior to, I mean, it's their land, evidently they own it, but nonetheless, to see them falling and then find out it
Yeah.
wasn't supposed to be,
Right.
if we could alleviate that in the first place. Thank
I
you.
think we've, everybody's gotten an education. I think we're all on the same page now.
And hopefully through this process, they can address some of the drainage issues that the abutters have had over the years with water, where it's going and how it's going, and looking at the plan, being able to have the berm and slowing things down from moving is faster. I mean, it's going to flow that way anyways, but if we can slow it down, treat it, clean it, and make it go a little slower, so it's not flooding areas.
Yeah, this exercise is to slow it down in
Yeah.
the swale. The minor storms would carry most of the, suspended solids and pollutants. Will then be able to filter in the swale,
Right.
and it'll be 100% better than what was there, which was nothing.
And the other thing the new owner's attempting to do, and I think that's why a lot of the trees were cut and cleared, was clean up the debris and the old equipment that was there and the leftover junk. So,
What I can also do is I'll ask the assessor to give me copies of the map, and I will outline all of the property that is owned by the applicants. And if there are any abutters there, maybe what we could do is reach out if they're not on the list and put together a memo and maybe put in the mailboxes or to the front door or something like at least a kind of hand delivery or regular mail or something like that. So that they'll know about this upcoming meeting. Also, there's the planning board meeting that is coming up on the 15th. They gave me the same list for the planning board, so whoever's not on there, then we'll.
right, you won't
see
have
if we can.
notification for that at this point either.
So we'll see if we can't hand deliver it or something like that to you.
Any other questions? Comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to continue to the 21st.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Moved and second, all those in favor?
All right.
So moved, and we'll see you on the 21st.
Okay, thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your time this evening.
Next on the agenda, we have a continued hearing for Luke Drive off of Brooks Place.
Oh, before he leaves, what do you want to ask him about 153?
Oh, hey,
Mike?
Mike.
Your own easel?
Mike,
I got a better one for you right here.
Before you leave,
But
Mike.
that costs money, though.
Mike.
Before you leave, 153 Scotland Street.
Have
Any
you-
word on that?
Yes, I met with the Milligans. They had their abutting neighbors there. We talked about what we could possibly do. Seems like those neighbors are okay with it. I can see we're going to probably be taking some fill out of the backyard there, and I need to get some elevation, so we'll be moving forward with
Okay.
a notice of intent to get to you folks.
Good. Thank you.
So
Appreciate the update.
We're getting
Is there a trick opening this?
Just pull it.
There you go.
I'm a civil engineer, not mechanical.
Mechanical.
Good evening, my name's Dave Terrian, and I'm here on continued hearings on Luke Drive. There's continued notice of intents for lots 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. It's a 7-lot subdivision that lot 1 has no work within the 100-foot. But there'll be alteration that likely will require a stormwater permit. At this point, we don't know how much alteration there is. Lot 2, I filed for a stormwater permit. There's 22,000 square feet of alteration, I believe. And just for reference, Brook Place is here. You come in, the lots are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And the wetlands are shown in green. The 50-foot no disturbed line is the orange line. The site is, there's an existing order of conditions for the road work, and that's currently being constructed. I took a run out there before I came in, and it appears that the siltation erosion control has been established because the drainage easements and so forth run onto the lots. So it appears that the total thing is covered now. If it's not, we have separate plans for each lot. And I guess probably the easiest way is to start at lot 2 and just work my way around, if that's acceptable with the board.
Yep.
Okay, lot 2, the 100-foot buffer is down here. There's a small piece of drainage swale that's being developed, and my understanding is that that's within the order of conditions for the road work. The drainage easements are shown in pink. There's a drainage easement here, and there's another one here. We calculated this for stormwater purposes. 0 to 5,000, I understand, is exempt. 5 to 15,000 is administrative, and then above that is a master. This particular one comes out with 22,452, and what we did was we calculated the disturbance between the 50-foot offset, which is the no disturb line, and the balance of the lot, and subtracted out the drainage easements because they were covered under the street work. So on lot 2, other than the drainage easements, the bulk of the work is in this area here, even though we calculated down to here, but the grading appears to be closer. They do incorporate roof drains on two sides on this particular site. You want to ask questions in each one, or
Yeah.
just go through the whole thing?
So, the total disturbance you mentioned includes the work that's part of the drain system for the roadway, or does not?
It does not.
Okay,
I subtract the square feet out.
okay,
So,
all right. Second question, the general locations of the roof drywall type system, can you give me an idea? Well, maybe it's not fair to ask you, but the engineer that prepared the plans. But we're concerned about whether the roof drywall structures will be into the water table. So there's no data, there's no elevations provided that tells what elevation they'll be put in, and they have to be out of the water table in order to
otherwise,
work.
there's no storage.
So we're going to need to have that information.
Okay.
The amount of room on this lot seems like it's reasonable that someone could use their backyard without encroaching
Yeah.
on the 50-foot buffer. So my question to the commission would be, how do you want to restrict the access into the 50-foot buffer? Do you want to have it marked with piping system like we do with the pipes and signs, or some other type of barrier such as fencing?
Would it be reasonable to consider different for each lot?
Sure, because like I said, on this one, there seems to be plenty of room.
That's why
In the backyard.
The piping might be adequate for this, yeah, I think.
Yeah.
It was my understanding that there was to be no grading in the drainage easement. This isn't listed as easement. It's clearly
There's
graded for that, so
the 50-foot buffer will be a conservation easement.
conservate, that's right here, correct?
Yep. And so
Which is fine.
nothing could be just done in there anyways, but
It doesn't.
the other issue that the planning board would not approve bioretention basins So the commission needs bioretention basins to help treat the water quality. And the compromise, rather than having one board approve and the other board or commission not wanting to approve, the commission agreed to allow the bioretention to be put at the back of the lot where it goes into the 100-foot buffer. So that is going to be, needs to be shown on this plan. And the original engineer had been given, actually gave us the drawings. And
Okay.
apparently it doesn't seem as if the current engineer got those drawings. So those are going to have to be shown on there, and they're going to have to be in an easement, because the homeowners association for this development is going to have to take care of those basins. The town
Okay.
isn't.
Okay. So that would be on lots that have a retention basin?
Yes. So again, it won't be on every lot, but
It won't
just the
be,
ones.
it's just the ones that has it, yeah. And it looks like there's a small piece on this one here and here.
So that, up on that front part of that lot,
At the street, yes.
the one that's at the top of your sheet, the retention drains into some additional street drainage, but the one on the lower part of that lot at the street, right there,
Right.
that drains directly down to the wetlands. So that's the one that will need to have a bioretention structure,
Okay, but they're showing piping coming out
right?
on this.
So at the end of the pipe, they're going to need that bioretention.
But doesn't that go into the same street drain?
No, that, oh, I'm sorry, it might.
That's what
See, it doesn't, yeah.
I don't-
Looks like it
on
right
the- On
here.
the one I have
Yes.
here, it doesn't,
You're right. That line I'm looking at is,
Just
It's
right
Yeah,
Yeah,
here.
it looks
lines
like,
of-
yeah, it looks like it must go here.
Oh, I thought
and
it was
connect to
that
this.
one.
Yeah. But I think there's
that line I'm
two.
looking at
There's-
is the property line. It's not a drain line.
yeah.
So, probably doesn't apply to this lot, it'll apply to some of the other ones.
Okay.
So then finally, the commission was talking about a homeowners association taking care of the 50-foot buffer and maintaining it so that invasive species, which this site originally started off with an order of conditions to do invasive species control. And if it was there before, it's going to come back. So the homeowners association will need to have maintenance of the 50-foot buffer to maintain the invasives or to prevent the invasives from coming in. So I'm mentioning this because apparently there's some people here that are interested,
Okay.
and they should know, some of the things that are going to come up in the order of conditions.
Okay.
So that would be the entire 50-foot buffer
Right.
back to the wetland line. Okay.
Would have
It's a good idea.
A management plan for,
similar
We had
to
one.
yeah.
similar to Spring Commons.
Yeah.
We require it on Spring Commons.
Well, it looks nicer.
Now,
What maintenance are you talking about? I'm sorry.
Hmm?
I'm curious what type of maintenance you're talking about in that.
So, you probably, being from the area, knew what the invasive species were out there before. And if they were there, they're going to come back. So the owners of the lots within the subdivision that have a 50-foot buffer to the wetlands will be members of a homeowners association that will be responsible for monitoring and maintaining those 50-foot buffers so that the invasives don't overtake the 50-foot buffer. And at the back of the lot where the 50-foot buffer starts, if you don't do that, there'll be all thorns and all those multiflora rows, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Believe me, it just We've got it, and it just comes like a title there.
I'm happy to hear that.
And what eventually,
It looks a lot nicer.
they'll end up with a written plan and a program that's recommended to
How
go
you
through
do
and, yeah, how you do it, whether it's hand removing or mechanical cutting or steps that they'll recommend taking. And as long as you keep up on it, you keep them at bay and they don't
Not
come in
even a
and.
much bigger lot, looking wise anyway.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's a preference, but when you just say maintenance, you know.
So, the plan that they just mentioned
Right.
isn't our plan. It's going to be the applicant's expert that will,
Okay, so
Submit a plan.
a biologist or a botanist would develop
right,
a plan that would become clause in the,
and it has to get approved, and then
Okay.
if the commission approves it, it goes into the order of condition.
okay.
So it looks as if I stand corrected on the bioretention basin on this lot, but I don't have any other comments.
Just for my own clarification, the bounding or the marking, is that on the 50-foot or the 100-foot?
50 foot.
50 foot, okay. And
So there'd be PVC pipe
PVC
with
pipe.
a wetland sign that
Right.
says protected wetland.
is there a standard basin? Just,
It will specify it in the order of
It will
conditions.
specify in the order of
and
conditions.
The plan is
Okay.
going to have a detail of it
okay,
so that
okay.
it gets put in. All right, next plan.
Moving on to the Lot 3. This one using the same criteria for calculating the square footage. It would also be a master or a major stormwater permit. It would come up with 15,137 square feet. So 138 square feet too large, but it is what it is. The green is the wetlands line. The 50-foot buffer is right here. They're proposing to put a house in a garage at the front of the lot with a 20 by 50 swimming pool on this back area. Leaching basin over here. There's a drainage easement on the front part, which catches in on this one. So that one would also, that one goes into drain hole 5. So that covers the fire retention. The roof drains are right here, and I'm assuming it's the same question on that.
Yeah.
And I'll have to get an answer on that. I don't have an answer for that.
So as the commission can see on this one, everything is right up against the 50-foot buffer. And a few PVC pipes and signs may not do the trick, so we need
Thinking
to
fence.
Yeah.
figure out what we're going to do for that one.
And there's not much room off of that retaining wall around the pool to the 50 foot. I mean,
If I could speak to that one, because that's actually the property that I'm buying. So the 20 by 50 was the engineer who did the plot plan, he left plenty of room, but it's not going to be a wall up against the buffer. I'm going to be keeping it away, and that's why when I came and saw you, even with the house, I think the way it's laid out comes up against the 50-foot buffer, but what I'm looking to do is make it 42 feet wide, so it'll probably have about 7 or 8 feet away from the 50-foot buffer on that, next to the house as well, so that as I'm at my house, I can be walking up and down next to my house without being in the buffer zone. And that's why I was curious about when I'm constructing the house, you know, if we go beyond that 7 feet with some materials or whatever while we're building, nothing to change anything, but just to be able to construct the house. As far as the 50-foot buffer zone, you know, and we're not going to be up against it. I'm not looking to have a retaining wall. I don't want to have a big retaining wall in the back here, The only place I picture the retaining wall is in the front near the street, because
Yeah.
you're gonna have such a drastic elevation change that you're gonna need one. But the back, I'm looking to take it from the elevation where the leaching field is, bring it down a gradual slope, down about a 4-foot elevation drop, have the area where the pool is, and then let it be another gradual slope off of there of about another 4 feet, so that everything will kind of work its way down to ground level and not just be an all or nothing.
So this is the lot you're interested in?
Yes.
So what you're saying differs from what we're seeing. So in order for the commission to approve it, it's got to be drawn the way you just described it, and it's not drawn that way.
Okay, so I'll have a conversation with the engineer.
Yeah.
The footprint isn't going to change.
But the grading-
The
the way-
grade, they're showing an 8-foot retaining wall here which would basically put the bottom of the pool on the existing grade right now. And I believe what the gentleman's saying is that they would drop the grade instead of an 8-foot wall, you'd end up with a 4-foot change in elevation, and the pool would be depressed rather than.
So,
Right, so you want to see the wall out of there so you feel more comfortable that we're not pushing right up against the buffer.
Well, our concern was that if you had to do any work around there, you're going to have a 3 or 4 foot space between your wall and the 50 foot, and if you have to get into the backside to do anything, that's a really narrow working area to have.
and they're showing an 8-foot retaining wall.
Right, with an 8-foot retaining wall, I can imagine there will have to be some maintenance if it was 8 feet. I mean, at some point.
Yeah, and I don't want that.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not so much you as the next owner,
Right.
or the owner after that, you know. Yeah, so that's why the pipes don't seem to work when you're this close.
Yes.
That's why a fence seems to give you the clear demarcation.
So,
Well, I mean,
David,
there's going to have to be a fence there anyways because of the pool.
Right.
so David, if you could tell us what the drop in grade is on the bottom portion of that sheet, adjacent to the septic system.
The
It drops
exist-
down from 112 to,
They're showing 105
14, yeah.
as the
Well,
grade
that's
for
112
the
right there.
system. So the existing grade out there is 104, 105. The way this is shown on the plan, it's showing the elevation of the top of the
So it's
pool
7
would be 111.05, which means you need the 8-foot wall there.
It's a retaining wall, right?
Yeah. So you could theoretically, instead of building the pool and filling around it, you could excavate it and put it down, because the existing grade is 104. So it would reduce the need for the you'd have to do a retaining wall along the leach field.
Yeah.
But that's
Theoretically, you'd split the difference.
Split the difference, yeah.
okay, so that's why it's major enough so that in order, before they
You gotta see it.
do a final approval, it has to be shown on the plan the way he
Okay.
wants it.
Okay.
So,
Knowing that it's a pool potentially going in, I'd entertain that we require the fencing around it anyways.
and
Just as-
would it start at the back retaining wall there, along the 50-foot buffer?
I would say so.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a, I believe this retaining wall is
with
proposed.
that retaining wall.
Proposed, so you're saying basically along the back,
And up along the house there.
up along the house?
And what kind of fence?
Well, I don't know. Stockade is what I would consider, but that's
I
not
mean,
adequate for the pool, though, is it?
I was going to say,
I mean, for the pool, you have to have a 4-foot
Right. I mean, I would kind of leave it open at a minimum of 4-foot height.
Okay.
And then then you can decide whether they want
Whatever
chain
you
link or
want.
stockade. I mean,
Okay, all right.
but if there's a fence going minimum 4 feet high, then the homeowner can make a decision.
That would be appreciated.
Yeah, the black vinyl chain link is almost invisible.
Right.
So it's not.
Not like the
it's
old
not
days.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so 4-foot high fence, style and,
Right. Style and appearance to be.
all right.
Now, would that go back to the street line?
I would think aesthetically you'd want to do that, wouldn't you? Or not?
Go where?
Run it to the length?
You know, I don't think it's necessary to run it all the way to the back, because there's some good depth to this lot, and you really only have to get past where you'll see that the elevation
I would go
is going to
from
drop
that
off in the
retaining
back,
wall
I think,
to
with
here.
plenty of room before the
Would-
50-foot buffer at the back end anyways.
Would you run it from the end of the retaining wall on each end, possibly?
The retaining wall right now is,
Right.
Right
Would be
here.
ending in the.
and it's over here,
Right.
so it would just basically follow the 50-foot around.
Yeah.
Is what.
If I could take a look at you,
Yep. Nope. I mean, it's.
so
But
What they're saying is that if this were, well, regardless what happens here, the fence would run like this to here, because there's a retaining wall coming in here.
So from one
Come
end,
around to the,
because the retaining wall would act as a theoretical buffer,
yeah.
which you could put signs extended from the rest of that, but.
Yeah, I mean, that looks to make sense, because the house isn't going to be that far over. Well, actually, no, here's the 50-foot buffer, and he's got the retaining wall coming into the corner of the house, which really should be probably,
I mean, wherever that retaining wall ends, it's more. We're not worried necessarily about you, but it's 3 people after you all of a sudden say, "I want more play yard for my kids."
The
And
retaining wall can't
it-
go back any further than the orange line anyways.
right, then the orange line, right.
And you're talking.
But it can go at the orange line.
It could go
Right.
at the orange line.
Yeah, I would want to put it at the orange line and then let the fence come off of that on the orange line, because that's the 50-foot buffer. And then, it could just come back, I mean, in around here, where then the elevation is going
Yes,
to
the
be
end
on
of
its
the,
own.
end of the wall is right here.
Oh, there's another wall over here
Yeah,
anyways, right?
there's another
So
one there, so it would
it would
just,
be wall to wall.
that's
yeah.
basically what they're saying.
No, that makes sense. But on the buffer line.
And from an aesthetic standpoint, even with the pool, if you're doing a 4-foot and you've got a 4-foot grade, then you.
Yeah, no, the
you're not-
aesthetics will
you're
be
not gonna-
fine. I mean, I've got one around my house now, so I'm not worried about that. So,
Okay.
yeah, well, that works.
Okay. Any other comments? John, anything? All right. Next one.
Lot 4, which as you're coming in, it's at the top of the cul-de-sac. And the wetlands are shown in green, and it kind of sandwiches them. So the 50-foot buffer is shown in orange. That comes around like this. There's a this one does have a basin that's
Goes out.
appears to be leaving the site. Yeah, this one appears to be not tied into
The street.
street.
Which lot are you looking at, or just in general?
Lots where
A butters?
one
Yeah.
Okay. Just questioning so that if there's one in particular, we.
No.
Okay.
So the issue on the bio,
So, yes, this one has the retention areas in the front, and the planning board didn't want the bio-retention
I don't think,
component on that portion, so the commission ordered that the end of that drain line
which would be right here.
into the 50-foot buffer would have the bio-retention built there.
Okay.
And so they were going to waive the 50-foot requirement to allow a temporary alteration to build the bio-retention, and then after that, it's just the maintenance.
It's just,
because of the retain.
And you'll notice on the
retaining wall.
other end of that lot, there's also an outlet that actually affects both Lot 4 and 3. You see where
Right here.
outlets there?
yeah.
So the same thing will happen there.
Okay, that's right over in the,
Looks like you got two sets of retaining walls.
yeah.
Temptation.
So there'll be
like it.
one there as well, and that'll have to be shown on the plan.
Okay. This one doesn't show roof drain. Oh, I'm sorry. The roof drains are in the side slope
Right.
back at here, and I don't have a detailed one, so I don't know what the bottom elevation is.
We'll get to the bottom of it before, no pun intended, but we'll know it. And as the commission can see, this one is
What a weird lot.
It's a big lot with small footprint.
That little
Yeah.
section there.
Yeah. This one also had a stormwater application, and then it's 10,954. So it would fall under administrative.
So this has a lot of retaining walls.
My suggestion would be on this, where the retaining walls are, put markers.
Posts.
And then where it's open between the retaining walls, put fencing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
All right.
mean,
Same thing, 4 foot.
The retaining wall ends here and starts here,
Right.
and then ends here. And
so it
starts
looks like there'd
here.
be
So it's
two sections of
Yeah.
fencing of some type to delineate the.
And are there markers along the retaining wall?
Yeah, I'd
Okay.
put the markers post along there so that if somebody decided to move the retaining wall,
Right.
they'd know that that's part of the delineation line.
okay.
All right. I think we're all set with that one.
Okay. Lot 5, and once again, we're just working our way around the cul-de-sac. Lot 5 has, once again, it would fall into administrative stormwater, 12,850. And
Yeah.
this one it appears to be piped into the highway drain system at
Yep.
this point.
That's the lot line, right?
Yeah, the lot
The
lines.
lot line runs here, so the basin
50 foot
splits
there.
lot 6 and lot 5.
Going back.
For sure.
And I don't know that,
Solid line there.
oh, the roof drains are right over here. So they're coming off the building into there. And there are no retaining walls, so
John, any comments before we?
I guess this one will just have to have a fence because there's no retaining walls.
That would be my suggestion.
Along
Just
the
knowing that along that 50 foot, after seeing potential problems we've run into in other places, that they're all of a sudden going to want that pool behind the house, and without something permanent there,
Yeah.
that lot kind of. I mean, they've got a lot of lawn area, but kind of restricted what else they can develop on it.
Right.
If I was in the market for this lot, I'd say the smaller the better, so I don't have to mow it. But not every family likes that kind of thing. Only old guys like me.
That's an evolution.
That's right, it is.
So I remember spending all weekend cutting, trimming, and everything. Now it's like,
And you can do it just like this. Now it takes half a day to even get motivated to do it.
That's why you have somebody come in and do yours, right?
that's right. Yeah. But I used to enjoy it as a young guy.
Stormwater, this is once again administrative, it's $12,850. So,
I have a stupid question.
Yep.
What is a retaining wall?
It's a series of heavy rocks
So
that
they're
are
going to be
piled
up in
up.
front of all the houses?
They're basically put along the when you're raising a lot and you're grading down. They put the retaining wall in so you don't have to continue filling all the way out. It gives them something to fill too.
That's what I
It's
thought.
a
Okay.
heavy barrier.
I mean, some
It-
people use blocks, some use boulders. It all depends on how high they have to go and
Yeah.
how tight it has to be.
So,
Okay.
What would you say the average height is on these retaining walls? Just the
60.
elevation?
well, well, there's no retaining walls in this one, but in this one they're showing the bottom elevation 102 and with the pool in here, looks to be a couple feet.
So,
They,
Oh, I
they,
think
they
it's
don't.
68
They don't.
feet
oh,
off the street.
not likely.
No.
No.
Street
No.
level.
No.
No.
Yeah, and
It's
they're
really more to take it from street level down
Yeah.
is what you're going to see.
the bulk of the retaining walls on this project are on the back side of the building, so they're not going to be visible if you're driving up Brook Place. You're probably not going to be able to see it.
Yeah, you won't. You know how the property is now, you know how the fill is in, so
Yeah.
this is just going to help hold the fill in to get down to the grade of the conservation.
I was out there before I come in catch basins and stuff are set, so it looks like the road grade is probably 8 to 12 inches higher than what's there now. So they're getting close to finished grade on that. And what you do is when you come off the back of the lot, as you slope it down, if you put a retaining wall in, then you don't have to keep chasing the grade, so you're not altering way out.
No, Market Basket has it, that parking lot to the left, that wall.
You don't even see it probably, but
I know,
there's a
yeah.
retaining
Yeah.
wall.
So
on
if
the
you're
Yeah.
looking
it-
at Market, if you look to the left, you'll see it. It's huge. So it'll give you an idea anyway.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
I'm from the Grafton, Worcester area, and we've got some projects out there where they've got 40-foot stone retaining walls.
You know.
This one's
And this,
Yeah.
and this is
This is a couple feet. I mean,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah,
yeah.
8 feet or less. In most cases, it appears it's less.
Okay.
Anything
All right.
on 5? Lot 6 is, once again, it's the administrative stormwater, 13,873, and there's a retention basin here, but I believe that was that's lot 5.
Yeah.
That goes into the
Street.
into the street drains. And the house is a shop, there's a retaining wall along here, and the rest of it's just grading.
No, I'm just thinking, I think
Pipes.
this is my house.
Yeah. Well,
Where's Brooks Place?
I don't know.
Yours is
I'm
again
almost
seven.
willing to say a fence because you know they're
Oh,
gonna
you're
put a
on
pool
6.
somewhere.
We're on
They can't put a
6,
pool
So you
there.
need to go to, oh wait.
Because of the roof drains, they
Right.
can't put it there because of their septic system. So I need to
Yeah,
go,
we
it's
go
gonna
out
go in the
here.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in water.
And that's year to year.
I
I don't
don't
think you need
see,
it. I mean,
No.
It's smaller.
I don't see roof drains in this one.
There are.
There are.
To the
Yeah.
left of the house.
To the left, the orange that's on the map.
Oh, I
Yep.
got it, so I find it.
Yeah, yours is highlighted. We have to do the hunt and peck. And
So roof drains are right here. Retaining walls along here. They're, that's 103. See, this retaining wall
That's
in here
six.
is really only,
5 or 6.
let me show 108. Okay, this retaining wall here is looks to be somewhere around 6 feet, 5 feet. And the rest of it is they just pretty much come into existing grades.
So we'd like to fence from the retaining wall right at the little jog to the street. I mean, to the
Property line on
property
Property
line.
line.
Yep, sounds good.
Did you say that?
a fence, a 4-foot fence from the retaining wall wrapping around to the property line along the back.
So you'll note that this, at the far right of that lot, the outlet of the drain pipe goes into the 50-foot buffer.
Right.
We'll have a bioretention basin built in there as well.
Drain here
Go
goes
up
down.
the- yeah, right in there.
So we need
What does that mean?
a bioretention swale or something
Oh,
to
right here.
Yep.
treat it.
For
Okay.
The stormwater runoff from the road.
Bio.
There's a
Oh, okay.
manhole, and then
Yeah.
a drain goes all the way back to a head wall.
Okay.
No, it's plants. So it's a basin with plants in it that take up the heavy metals and pollutants that are in the stormwater. So
Is it a hole then?
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
basin.
But it's
Supposed
plants.
to drain.
I believe it's.
Ideally, we typically like to see them be quote-unquote dry basins. So they may hold water for a certain amount of time, but the theory is that they will eventually drain as the water goes down
Right,
after a
currents
storm.
in
And
there and stuff like.
so it's not going to be a mosquito breeding site is the ideal.
And it keeps the water from going everywhere else. Yeah.
So the planning board didn't want those plant basins in the front yards where a lot of these are, because it was going to be a maintenance problem for not only the owner but the town. So rather, like I
Is that
said,
going to be
rather
a
getting
public
into
road?
arguments between two regulatory
I think this is going to be another one that
Yeah, I think
entities,
it's a homeowners association.
they
so we may
decided
not
that
fix that.
commission would grant the
They may
the
have-
allowance.
They'd have
so
to
it
maintain
has a
it.
Right.
50-foot
Well,
buffer.
thank you for
Bioretention.
Right. That's why the homeowners association can have all of these in the back.
Yeah. But why they say no, I don't understand.
Yeah.
All right, go on to 7.
7 is also a administrative, 12,304 square feet, and there's a number of, this is lot 6 over here, so you were talking the basin here. This one over here,
Yeah.
you talking another basin there?
Again, I'd say fence from there to there.
Just to be safe.
The retaining walls are along here, so once again, you've got this stretch here that
There's an infiltration basin here.
delineates the
Already
50-foot
designed.
no
Yeah.
disturb.
Yeah, see 104, 106. Oh, it does. 105.
So it would be that, I'm assuming it would be the same scenario, fencing from the end of the,
Drain system, yeah. I noticed it doesn't seem to have any roof drain,
yeah, I couldn't find it.
so we'll,
Those will be added. With every one of them's going to have it. And as far as the elevations of the groundwater, we have testing all over the place for Board of Health.
yeah,
So we'll be able to give you that information easily for
okay.
the next meeting. But we'll give you plenty of data for that. But every lot is supposed to have roof drain. That might have been a cut and paste. Or
It looks like they
The building
redid
square.
the
And then they
septic
have to have
system
the,
over there,
the
and
100-foot or the 100
I'm
foot
guessing
square.
there was somewhere in here.
It's just
and
not,
they've got
yeah.
it.
And that's where the
No,
building
definitely not
that's
for
what it
everyone.
was.
There seems to be enough room for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll make room.
So a fence from the retaining wall to the,
Property
Yes.
line.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions from?
I do.
Yes.
The street level seems to be probably like 6 feet above my grade of my house, my yard.
Not where you are, no. No, it's not. Maybe 3.
With this drain, from the top of the drain down,
Yeah.
I would like to measure it.
Well, no, I mean,
It drops
is-
twice.
Yeah.
The drain pipe drops twice, right?
Okay.
So you're saying 3 feet?
Yeah.
I think it drops 3 feet and drops another 3 feet. Anyways, what I'm concerned about is the drain pipe from the street level. Like I said, it drops once, then it comes down, drops again, and comes out to almost my backyard. I don't know what's gonna be there, but I know my yard is flooded now. And granted, I know it's rained a lot, but, and we also have like a little stream on this street is on, if you're facing my house, the street's on the left. On the right side of my house is a little stream that comes through only when we've had a lot of rain. That will come into my backyard too. So that rain has keep coming because of the wet season we've had, no doubt. But I'm afraid that we're not only gonna have this, but we're gonna have this that's gonna hit our backyard and
It's
In a-
actually going to go
I see
away
a
from you.
hole.
It's going to go away from your backyard.
right now, here's a picture.
Because
I
it's
took a picture of it.
right, but the pipe, the drainage system's not working as you can see.
Right, but I
will
have a
be.
picture of it. See, this is a picture of my backyard. I don't know who I should give it to. I kind of cut and pasted this picture. He's got a hole, just a small hole right here, but this is my backyard. Here's the pipe.
that's the drain pipe.
Yeah. So I just want to know if that's gonna,
Here's the,
and this is the, see, this is the top of the street right here. See how it drops down?
Yep.
So I'm just, like I said, I'm just concerned about,
But here's the pipe.
So
So the elevation of
this
that
is,
pipe,
this is looking at it like this.
just like that. And the pipe ends there.
and here's the storm drain of the,
Oop.
here's the storm drain of the street level. And see, you still gotta fill that in more. And so there's a drop, and then you can't see this, there's 2 drops here for the pipe.
So according to
This
this,
is taking you're over here. This is directing the water away from you, not towards you.
Further
Oh,
back.
this is my
Yeah, but
yard
look at a
right
pipe.
here.
Right.
So where is this pipe?
This is the end of the pipe right there.
Yeah.
Your yard is probably another.
Only about 15, 20 years.
It's running this way.
But I mean,
It's running down, it's not running into
No,
your
this
back.
isn't running down, this is running right into the woods.
Right, but when we're done grading, this is gonna run away
Oh,
from you.
what are you gonna do here?
We're gonna, at the end of that pipe is where we're putting one of those vital retention with the plantings and.
Right here?
Yes.
Right at the end of
So you're
the,
gonna build a big hole here?
No, not a big hole.
just,
It's a very broad, slight depression. It's not something that meant to hold water. It's to treat the water and get rid of the water at the same time.
So you're,
it's a cement thing.
I'm wondering, is there a guarantee my yard's not gonna get flooded out?
Your yard is higher. You're higher than we are. We're down at elevation, what is that, 104? This is, you're up here at 106, 107.
So it has to run
runs away from you. Huh?
No, because that yard slopes down too.
Brooks
so-
Place is up here. And
Yeah, but it slopes
Yeah.
down at the end of the place.
Yeah.
So your water, you took a water, man.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not at all. No, I'm not at all. This water is so, walk back here. You walk in here and see if you don't go up to your knees in mud.
So,
Don't tell me about
It's all
that.
wet back there.
It's all wet.
are you Patricia?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're here,
Uh-huh.
and the engineer's grades are showing 109, 108, 107, 106, and one, I don't know where the 105 is, but you got a 104
103.
and 103. So where the 105 disappeared to about right here, but he didn't carry it out. So that's telling me
This
that
here
this
is-
is sloping to the back and to the right side of your lot as you're looking at it from the street. It's heading to the right side back corner of your lot.
It doesn't look like that. This is my.
But they haven't graded.
It is a back on it.
Let us finish.
Like you say, he's gonna
This
put
is
it.
gonna be graded.
Yeah,
too.
let us finish. All we did was put the pipe in, that's it.
And then if you go further here though, this is where I'm saying, from here, I mean, all your land, from all that woods area, because you took down all the trees, has turned to mud. And all back here in my yard has turned to mud. And it's because all these trees came down, so my yard's mud. But over here too is where that stream comes in. So I'm more afraid when you grade this down, it's gonna tie into that stream that we have.
But it's all running away from you. It's not going towards you. And the stream is going away from you.
That
Everything's
stream that
going
runs
away.
along this side is,
It's coming from Brooks Place down.
right. But it
So
still
that water-
hits the back of our yard.
That's it. But I can't make water run uphill. I can't stop the water that you're dumping on my property.
I'm not dumping any on your property.
We want to get rid of it.
Really, you want to get rid of it? I'm not dumping any on
Just
your
give,
property.
I'm kidding.
I don't want mud backyard. I'm not sure.
It's hard to understand. It's difficult when you look at
Well,
these
until
drawings.
until it's done.
I took the dog out back there. I was almost up to my knees in mud. Never before have I been like that.
Yeah, but that's,
So
We've
it's
never,
concerned.
we've never had this
Nothing's-
many unprecedented days. I'm
True,
getting
I
murdered.
agree with that.
Every job I have. Can't
Normally,
get anything done.
what would it be like normally?
You can keep them.
Okay.
I have pictures. I have more pictures.
all that water, Pat, that's hitting the road now, it's actually, this is all gonna take that away from your land. Right now, there's no,
Yeah.
there's no drainage, so it can come to you now.
Yeah, see, this is
Yeah,
what.
there's nothing directing it
Yeah.
anywhere
This is what
else,
I
so
was
it's.
saying. This is actually a bigger picture, and this is what I thought it was gonna end up to be. Like,
Leave it at 10 now. That's-
I don't want it
like you
left
say,
like
he's gonna
that.
put
Yeah,
a-
no.
I told you what he was
We will make
Okay,
it
you want us
happen.
to keep this?
yeah, you can keep
It's every abutter's worry.
It is. I
It
mean-
really
We want to
is.
know, we don't want to.
Wherever you
It's too
build,
late.
that's a concern.
I just know my mother had a development behind her, and it was higher than
Sure.
her land.
Sure.
And
But you can direct it.
the developer didn't, and all that water from that street, which is a whole street away from her, came down through somebody else's yard and into her yard. So she said, "Get on it before it happens."
So Pat, I had told you I've been to all the meetings from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah, you
And
told
that was
me, yeah.
exactly the same concern.
Yeah.
Because you'll see on the other side, abutting my property is the same. But once they change the elevations, and they put in the street and the barriers that'll control the water, it's gonna take it to lower points than our properties.
This
Yeah, 'cause I'm
development,
not-
this development is below you, not above you. So it's not like we're on the high side of you where the water's coming onto you.
I don't believe it. The road is up here.
Now, well, you see, you're talking about the road. No, the road.
But the road has a
road's
drainage
high.
system.
The road's high, but when the water hits the road, and the road, it's not gonna soak through the road. It's not gonna just go.
It's gonna
over
go
the-
down.
No, it's gonna be edges.
Yeah, all that water,
It's gonna be
yeah.
a
Yes, the wind
circle.
of the storm drains through the
It's
storm
gonna be
drains,
like
through
a
the
funnel taking
filtration,
it away from
and
your
into the
house.
drainage system.
All
Because I
that,
just know even coming down Brooks Place from your end,
Mhm.
we're on the low side. So like Leslie's house, all that water drains into our yard too, because we're on the low side of the street. And then I feel we're on the low side of the street, now we're gonna be on the low side of his street, we're really gonna be flooded.
Trust
if
Steve,
you-
though.
if
He,
you- If you wanna
yeah.
walk through it,
and I can explain it to you,
Sure.
I'd be happy to go out
Yeah.
and just you bring the wine, okay?
Yeah, because I was explaining to me, she tells me you need to go up another 4 feet. I'm like, how much higher can you go up? It's already up 6 feet.
All that water that would hit that piece of property right there, that always would go into your property, is now gonna be taken away, because the street's gonna be there, and it's gonna run right down the street to the backfield, away from the
Through the
property.
pipes, through the drainage system they put there.
Yeah.
It'll be controlled. So, yeah.
The trees control it.
I mean, there's
Really.
no
Well, they do,
guarantee
yeah,
you'll be
absolutely, you're
fired,
right.
but I don't
That's the
think you're gonna
problem.
be wetter at all.
And we have to protect the wetlands,
Yeah.
so they have to do what we ask them to do to get this in there, so,
Yeah.
you know, us doing our job is gonna help you.
Which a lot of the problem right now is Brooks Place and a lot of the older roads don't have curbing and don't have the proper
Right.
drainage put in it.
Right.
So all that water right now is being
Right.
directed
And it all comes
right
down
up to the
into
property
we have
owners and-
no drains.
right.
And this should be better. This is gonna be more controlled and directed towards the wetlands, so it's clean and filtered out, so you should.
And I'm surprised because the pump, you know, it's the same thing. You get water in your cellar. And no better
It's
than
everywhere.
the season to see it, right? And it's getting
Yeah,
that.
so-
It's really get you,
There's also, please,
get your blood pressure pretty high when there's so
plants you
much
can
water.
put in your yard
Well,
to
sure
control
it
some of that
does.
flooding too. If you get some native plants and some blueberry bushes and stuff, you can, you know, for your own sake, for your own yard.
Takes up some of the water.
It'll suck up that water because you lost those trees. You could put some you know, wetland plants back there and they'll suck up some of that water for you too.
They suck up a lot of water, believe me.
Who does? What
Trees and
Like those
bushes. and-
blueberries, things that might
Right.
provide you with some,
And that's what you're
Enjoyment,
seeing, is the loss of the
A
trees.
big river birch in front of the house. that The lawn can't get enough water.
Yeah, you want less lawn.
agree with
Yeah. Less lawn is always better. Less lawn, more natural and native plants.
Maybe a big net across the back though, so he doesn't hit all the houses.
The golf course that's going in behind there. The net for the golf balls.
He needs it.
What, what?
He drives his ball
He
down
needs
to
the
the
net
backfield,
for-
he lost his driving range.
He needs it. He lost it. He did. He lost it. He used to go out there hunting in the woods for all his golf balls. That was his whole day.
I know.
Now you can tee off from the cul-de-sac.
All right.
Everybody knows Peter by those golf balls.
Well, they don't see the-
So can we go on the next meeting and just come back?
Do you think all of the
he's got-
drainage and the basins and everything can?
He's got to make all those changes by the 13th.
Which is Monday?
It's less than 7 days from today.
Well, the changes, so just to recap, the changes, I see as three things. You want the water table elevations, or you want the bottom elevations for all the roof drains.
Yeah.
Add the roof drains to 7.
He's going to add the details of the conservation markers. He's going to have to take what Todd Pilling gave us for the bioretention basins and put them on the plan. Got to change the plan to reflect what he wants to have on his.
You'll have it by Monday. No problem.
It's basically the same change with each plant, so it's,
Keep it moving.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to continue it till the 21st.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
So move.
Thank you, gentlemen.
We'll see you then.
do you want us to show the proposed location of the fencing
Yes.
Yes.
on the plan?
Yep.
Okay.
Fencing can be a post and rail.
Well,
You left it to the property
discretion
owners.
of the.
The discretion, as long as it was 4 foot. That was the
Just
requirement.
trying to keep it as rural as
Yep.
we can, that's all.
We just-
Honestly, the 4 foot was, I had said.
Well, for the pool.
That's
Right.
because of a pool, but a post and rail would be about
Three.
this high, which
Yeah,
is
I mean, it-
still aesthetically,
Do you want
Can
the
you
green
go
grass?
for with those?
Well-
it's nice.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, good.
You never thought of it. The whole thing would be illegal.
No, I sent a copy of the white slips with my filing, so.
I'm just not sure where the posting is.
Okay,
Thank
have a
you.
good night.
All right, good night.
Permanent,
Thank
not-
you.
as long as they keep them maintained.
Yes.
Posting is
Oh,
going to
well.
run pretty quick, especially in that amount of water.
My neighborhood, they took them down.
Yeah,
Now they gotta put them back up.
and that's why if you put the chain link, you'd be one and done.
The old neighborhood.
I mean, a chain link lasts forever. I mean, theoretically, a lot longer than a post and rail.
They'll rot out eventually, yeah.
in East Bridgewater, they allowed post and rail fences, and nobody ever maintained them. And
Right, that's my concern, is that, especially in a wet area, unless you go with plastic
Yeah.
post and rail, I mean, or some other material, granite posts and wooden rails, they're gonna rot
Right.
really fast, even if you do cedar.
They do.
And this
They
is a
do.
homeowner's, right, situation?
Right, and these are gonna go with
I
each
mean,
homeowner, not with an association,
yeah,
right?
Not
I mean,
an
that's,
association, okay.
they're gonna have an association for the
maintenance.
Maintenance.
Of 50-foot
The
buffer.
50 foot.
And we could include
Oh, the
the
invasives
fences.
too. Well, that's what I was thinking. Maybe if we're
Right.
going to include
Yeah,
the
I mean,
invasives
if-
and maintenance of the post and rail, if that's the choice they made.
And it might be better if they were all, since it's a homeowners, that they all have the same fence.
Yeah.
So that if one starts to go and needs to be repaired, somebody's gonna say, well, geez, you know.
you might as well get my rails and
Yeah.
I've
posts
got
on
a
the
post
same.
and rail fence, and you've got this beautiful vinyl stockade fence, and I don't wanna pay for the extra
Right. Yeah,
Right.
maintenance.
yeah,
So if they're all the same, nobody's gonna complain,
Yeah.
except for the developer.
So, are we gonna specify that?
I think we should.
I think it's a
Yeah.
good idea.
And we don't have to do it tonight, but, well, actually, maybe we should, because
Steve?
I gotta tell the guy.
Put it on the
engineer,
plan.
On Thursday, so.
I think that's, you know,
Would
it's
it
not
be
that
a
costly.
vinyl fence, or?
It's a reminder, certainly. And if we put in maintenance, of course.
I think it should be a 4-foot chain link vinyl coated fence.
They look pretty good.
They-
Yeah, I mean, they
Yeah.
don't, the black ones you don't even really see now. I mean, they really,
Better than they used to.
Yeah.
yeah, they,
And they don't
They
require
cheaper?
as much maintenance either.
Probably.
I think in the long run, over
Yeah.
time for maintenance and replacement, they gotta be
Because they're gonna
cheaper.
last
Yeah.
15, 20 years, easy.
Yeah, with the stockade, anything wood.
Boy, they don't
You're locking
last.
3 years, 4
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
and you're gonna
Seal
get
it.
4 times the length of,
Exactly.
All right, sounds good to me.
All right.
153 costs, Scotland Street, we got an update on that. Hopefully he'll be in with a filing soon.
Okay, we don't have to take enforcement then, thank you. Zoning
That's it.
next?
The outdoor classroom at home.
We have a couple of correspondence and approvals that we need. We have a request for use of Holmes' Hill Fire Pit through the high school for the Hero's Journey course on May 30th. So we just need, I'll entertain a motion to approve the use of the site.
Motion?
I'll second.
Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
That was a fun class.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
Okay, and let's see. One FYI, Paula needs to get her ethics test done.
I think, how many times do you have to do it?
Every time you turn around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then
it's every so many years,
Yes,
and
they say
I let them
that.
send me a reminder
What
that
is
your ethics test.
Yeah, I took
Yeah.
mine. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a good
It seems
45
like every
minutes.
time you turn
Yeah.
around, it's over, it's due again.
2 years, I think.
Is it every two?
If you
and
could get it on a alternate year from your dog.
we just have
races.
correspondence that National Grid is coming through to do their annual cutting and maintenance along the high tension power lines,
Okay.
and that's just for file.
That's it.
And John, do you have anything?
Yes, I have zoning, proposed zoning article that we proposed. We need to talk about that tonight, and Trukey's Landing. So which one do you want to start with first?
Trukey's.
Truchy Landing.
All right,
That
so
it
it's
is.
item 12 on your downloads. The Open Space Committee has concerns about the vehicles that are driving in over the grass on Trukey's Landing, creating ruts, and it's not that far to pull off on the gravel parking area, carry your canoe or your kayak down to the river, but everybody seems to want to drive in and right to the edge of the bank and put their canoe in. So they struggled with some ideas as to what they should put out there. Granite blocks spaced conveniently apart so a vehicle couldn't drive in, and that wasn't so popular. And they settled on the idea of large diameter tree trunks cut into lengths and strung and laid along the edge of the gravel pull-off, and have them sit on a small log so that they are off the ground. And they didn't want to do anything and commit anyone to volunteer and provide the materials until they checked with the commission to see if it was all right. So by having the ruts, it creates issues with the lawnmower that goes in and does the maintenance. So I've included a sketch of what it looks
I
like.
don't know why people pull in there.
I mean, like
It's a
down
big
here.
open area, and it's
Yeah.
easier to drive in and
Drive
unload your
around.
canoe back there than it is.
What's
Yeah.
over here, the farm?
The stumps along that way.
No.
the yellow-
No, there's
Yeah.
the house. True Cheese is right
I'm wondering
here.
if people
then the
stop
one
and they're
parking
pulling
there
around them to get around.
On the gravel.
I don't.
No,
Oh,
no.
just the gravel.
There's
So we
quite
put
a,
it
there's
up
enough room
in
here to
grass.
Yeah.
do
So
it.
there's enough space for vehicles to pull off all in line along the line of tree trunks and still safely be able to get out of their vehicles without getting into the travel lane.
Okay.
And if they need to expand a little bit more, I'm sure we can get some gravel from various highway projects around the town.
And this will all work until they decide to widen 106.
Yes,
Wow. Yeah.
but I think the widening will be going the other way for any future. Going the
20-year
southerly.
project. Yeah.
So if you're in agreement, I'll let the,
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that sounds like,
Yeah,
we have a meeting tomorrow night, so.
okay.
hope so. Sure.
All right, and then on the zoning, during the hearing that the Board of Selectmen had on the zoning article, if you click on sketch number 1, zoning sketch number 1, the people that had some questions about it said, what if you have wetlands in the front of the project? Because our sketch showed the typical upland area from the street back to wetlands. They said, what if it's the reverse and you have wetlands in the front and the building square is wholly in the wetlands and the buffer, and where would somebody be able to create a lot if that were the case? So I took 450 East Street, which was a Form A lot that the commission allowed a driveway to cross over the wetlands and use the upland on the other side of it, and use that as an example. Drew in the 100-foot square that the planning board requires for the general shape of a lot. Drew in the 50-foot buffer, which is that crosshatch area, and then created a 135 by 150-foot upland box where somebody could build, and it seems to work just as well. So what it would require, because our original wording that we proposed, which is the zoning article revised download, we said that that you had to have the 100-foot square at the 35-foot setback and shall not contain any wetland or the 50-foot buffer there too. So that's what we originally proposed, but as I just showed you with that sketch, it would make that an unbuildable or unapprovable lot. So if we changed it, which you'll see with the red circles and crossouts and things, that the wording would stay the same all the way up to the end of the first sentence, which says for a structure. Then it would say if the square contains wetlands or the 50-foot buffer there too, an additional building site envelope of 135 by 150 shall be required. And that 135 by 150 is what you would have if there was no wetlands in the front. So you still get the same amount of land area that's all upland without any buffers. And if the commission is in agreement, it's already been published or going to the publisher as we originally proposed it. Based on your collective experience at town meeting, could we go to the town meeting floor and just ask for an amendment?
An amendment to the motion.
Let it be read the way it is, and then,
Right, and then-
move to amend,
Yep.
and then put this wording in instead, and if it works. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, we'd have to probably wait for another special town meeting or another annual town meeting. And these lots that we just looked at were the impetus for this whole idea, because those lots are terrible for families, for an older gentleman who's wants to retire.
If it was
like
an over
yourself.
50 retirement community, that would be a perfect development, but I
But
can
not
just
for
imagine,
children.
right, the first 3 get sold and they have 2.8 kids and need a yard and
I
a pool.
guess
And
explaining it to the town, what we're trying to do to the town meeting, is it going to be easy to explain that to them?
I think so. We could have
Yeah.
a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
and by making this change,
And why?
and it actually theoretically makes it easier to develop a parcel. I mean, you're giving them, more,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You're not restricting them going with it in front of.
Right.
You can,
They know what they're getting into.
right up front.
Yeah,
I mean,
right, they're gonna walk in and know they're not gonna have to come and, squeeze and turn and build a
And
million
put-
walls and.
yeah.
I think we should move on it. If it didn't work, if it doesn't work, it's too confusing, you just keep going.
Yeah.
So one thing to consider, I mentioned in this wording a site envelope of 135 by 150. It might be a little easier to adapt to the shapes of lots and things if instead of a envelope, we would say a building site envelope with a circle with a diameter of 135 feet. So you'd almost have this, it's not quite the same obviously, but you'd almost have the same amount, but it might give some flexibility in case there's some wetlands on the adjacent parcel.
Yep.
Right.
That they can
They can
shift
maneuver
the circle
around.
or a square's a little.
To make it work.
Within the 150-foot wide lot.
Mhm.
It might provide some flexibility. So instead of, I'd like to see the parallelogram 135 by 150, but maybe it's going to be too restrictive. And if we did a circle, it gives a little flexibility.
Well, that seems to be the pushback, is the restriction that I'm hearing, so that might be a
Well,
better approach.
I'm not so sure there's the restriction of the, because everybody probably agrees there should be a certain amount of upland
Right.
for people to use and
Of course.
and enjoy. But
Yeah.
I think what the original question was is somebody recognized the fact that we have a lot of wetlands at the street, and people do have a right to, through the limited project crossing provision,
Sure.
you can cross over and get to the upland.
Yeah.
But you still need that 135-foot circle on the backside.
Somewhere, yeah.
Yeah,
And the way we had originally wrote it, it would mean that lot couldn't
That's
be
probably what some of the objections
Yeah.
were.
Right.
yeah.
But now it can be, and it still will leave a reasonable amount of
I like the
upland.
circle. I think that gives you a little more.
Now, is that going to get it more confusing with the planning board if we have circles and they have squares?
No. I talked with the chairman, and he's the one that suggested the 135.
In the circle, or is the
The
circle?
circle, the
Okay.
circle.
All right. Yeah.
Fine with me.
I think the circle makes sense.
Okay. I'll put things together and finalize it, and we'll attempt to amend it on the town meeting floor.
When's that meeting?
June something?
4th?
Okay.
I might have it on my calendar. Let me look. That's what's nice to have in the computers here.
48 voting articles.
Yes, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
That's more than one night.
Yeah.
I hate to say it.
Some reason I didn't write down in town meeting.
But it's around that,
I got it.
yeah.
Third, maybe?
Do you have that form all signed?
The what?
The outdoor classroom?
Yes.
Did you put your signature on it?
I put approval
June
circled
3rd.
yes and initial
Third.
it. Yeah,
Oh,
third.
all right.
6:30.
That one.
If you want me to sign it, I will.
Yeah, because I think they like that.
Did you say 6:30, 7:30?
6:30 for me, because I have to go early to,
Okay.
so you're right. 7?
And there's no special conditions, so.
No, I put none.
I'll get the definitive word on that, but I'll at least get it on the calendar.
Looking at that, if it is the third, do we want to plan for June 4th now to keep the agenda light, or not even have a meeting that night, knowing they may have to continue the town meeting another night?
Good point.
Good point, actually.
I mean, I just,
I think that, to be honest, and thinking of the scheduling here, like tonight took up a lot more time than what we had on our agenda planned out. And it was inevitable once it all got started. But if you have on the 21st, X number of public hearings coming up, and there are 2 new ones that an additional 2 that I will be putting in. So we have new ones plus these continued ones. So it's wise to stay now that,
right, that's why I was looking at saying that,
right, and then, and so that people can plan on it, because then there'd only be one more meeting in June, and then we'd go to the one meeting in July.
right.
So we're talking about only 3 meetings from now until, we'll say from the end of this month until
August.
August.
Based on the town meeting, the number of articles, is there a decent chance it could 1 or 2 nights? Is that?
We got to get through the budget.
Well, a lot of them are consent, so that may go pretty fast. I mean, I won't, if
Well,
it's
then
another
we'll
night,
go
I
to the
can't
next
be
thing.
here, so hopefully you get a majority.
Right, I mean, that's why I mean, I don't know where our article may or may not fall on it.
That's right.
That would be funny.
Um,
Send it the next night.
So, I mean, I don't know whether we,
You thinking the following Tuesday, or try to do it on the Wednesday?
No, just have a light agenda on
either
before.
don't schedule any new hearings that night.
Just continue what is already.
And if there are
on the
any
books.
continued ones, we'll know on the 21st or have a better idea, of a
Exactly.
feel maybe, that we may tell people the meeting may be canceled
Yeah,
if
that makes
town
sense.
meeting
Right,
is going
yeah,
to, I mean, but not have them plan on any new hearings
So
to
then
take
nothing
any.
will be advertised to be on that first Tuesday in June.
Right. And we would just have whatever new hearings we have scheduled for the 21st, plus the continued ones we have.
Well, we have 3 that will be coming in on the 21st.
New ones, right. I mean,
Yeah.
and at least one of them's easy, theoretically.
One of them is fairly easy, and then there's one that's an ANRAD, and then there's a notice of intent.
And it's just for a pool.
And
So-
the ANRAD is up off of Walnut Street on the Brockton line. But it's not like you guys are going to go trudge it that night.
Right. So, I mean, theoretically, there may be, depending on these 2 continued hearings, that if they have to be continued again, would be the 4th, maybe. And we'll know by then. I mean, both of them seem like they want to get moving forward on it, so
Yeah.
hopefully they'll have everything completed properly for the next one. And if not, they may be waiting until end of June to come back on the agenda if it has to be.
They did pretty well last year with a fairly long.
We did,
Right. I mean, it was a late night, if I remember right.
right up to the
Yeah.
11, is it?
But
Actually, I think they went over. I think they asked if
Did
people
we?
would stay, and I
That's
think
right,
I
yeah.
think we said yes to
10
get
or
it done.
15 minutes, yeah.
so do we want to chance it, or I mean, it might be better just to. I mean, whether we have a light agenda or not. If they have a
If it's late,
meeting that
then
goes,
it's not
meeting
much.
goes over,
Yeah.
we may be out of luck.
Out of line.
So if we give people enough time to plan, they'll work around it. So we should probably just plan on one meeting in June.
And we can tell them on the 21st that
Right, I mean,
we
that's,
may not be here, so.
yeah,
And nobody will be upset.
right. Let's just plan
And it's the
one
summer.
meeting in June. And
Okay, yeah.
if we have to continue it from the 21st, it's just going to be that much longer for them to have to wait
Yeah.
for their projects.
Do you want to vote on that?
I think should,
Yes, I'll entertain a motion to cancel our June 4th meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Anything else? Hearing none, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.